welcome to Blue Collar Fishing Thursday Night Live. Let me get everything set up here. Get my. All right, welcome to Blue Collar Fishing Thursday Night Live. Get everything. Get my stuff muted. Get everything. Got a lot of equipment to mute here. Just bear with me for a second.
I was prepared. I turned off my tablet way ahead of time.
Well, when you're hosting, you can't do that. I can't open my YouTube page until I'm broadcasting. So, all right. That's got everything going here. So, welcome to Thursday Night Live. I'm your host, Kelly. I'm Blue Collar Fishing, and tonight's guest is actually probably the closest to me in distance of any guest we've ever had. This is Adam Mihara Fishing. You can check out all of Adam Mihora's social media links, his YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel now. I'll leave the link to that in the description box below, and I'll put it in the chat later tonight. So if you want to come back and watch us on the rewatch before I enlist this live. So Adam, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me on. So I've been a tournament bass fisherman for the past 20 years. Before that, I actually went to college for fisheries science, which is the study of kind of like marine biology, but freshwater for bass and trout and what have you. I also like to fly fish, and it's just a passion of mine to help people enjoy the sport. So anytime I can, I do that. So that means helping out kids, helping out veteran events. I spend a lot of time on my boat, on my kayak, on foot, just fishing, learning, and even got into carving my own baits, including swim baits like this one.
Okay. Yeah, we were just talking that off air right before everybody joined us. We have Fat Guy Outdoors in the chat. Chris, thanks for coming in. Dan's Midwest Angling. Appreciate you coming in tonight. How's it going?
Hey, Dan.
So what league do you tournament fish in?
So I'm currently in Philadelphia Bass Busters, which is a multi-species club out of the Philadelphia area. You don't really see a lot of multi-species fishing clubs out there anymore. A lot of people are just about bass, bass, bass. But my club is a lot different from any other club that people talk about. We do fish for bass, but we also catch pickerel, crappie, perch, basically anything that'll bite that's a game fish. And we'll have a 10 fish limit on the day. And we could have 5 bass and 5 crappie, or 5 pickerel and 5 perch, whatever you can get to 10, and that's the heaviest weight of your 10 fish rather than just 5 bass. It makes it a little bit different format, and you can still be competitive even if you're not the best bass fisherman in the world. If you happen to be good at catching pickerel, well, you blow people out of the water if we hit a pickerel lake. Prior to that, I've been the president of other bass clubs. I've been in, clubs like Five Alive, Hook This, Riverside, Bucket Mouth Brigade. I've been in a lot of different clubs here in South Jersey, and I even fished in some of the bigger events for like the Federation Nation and Bass Federation for FLW. But running a boat, I had 2 different skeeters over the past couple years. Running a boat is a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of effort. And if you don't see the results, you don't really get anything back from it. Like, if I'm not catching a $5,000 check, I spent a whole lot of money to drive down to the Potomac or up to Candlewood or Champlain, and that's all I really did. I spent a lot of money to catch a bunch of green fish,
Right.
So now I've sold all the big boats, and I run a John boat. And then for fun fishing, I'm in the kayak. In fact, my latest
Okay,
YouTube
what
video is in the kayak.
kind of kayak are you running?
I have a Vibe Skipjack 90, and I looked up this boat because I wanted something that could handle my weight and the weight of all my tackle. You know, lots of tackle that I have. And the Vibe was one of the few that had a 9 foot length and a weight capacity that could handle all of my stuff and me. Uh, and it turns out it's a really stable boat. It's very, very easy to paddle, easy to pick up. It's only 45 pounds, and it's a sit on top, and it has a nice seat to it. So you're not like aching after, a 4 to 6 hour day. So I can literally curl the thing in my arm. That's how light that boat is.
Okay. Um,
And,
sorry, I had some background noise. I was muted my mic. Had to unmute.
sorry, I've got a Forerunner, so putting that thing on top of my Forerunner,
Mhm.
that's the hardest part for me. If I was, throwing a Hobie up there, I'd need like machinery to do it because they're so heavy. But with the skipjack, it just goes right over my head and onto the truck.
What's the weight capacity on the skipjack?
I believe it is officially 275. But don't quote me on that. It might be actually higher. It might be in the 300 range. I know that they have some other models that are a little bigger that have more weight capacity. But I liked
Okay.
it so much, I bought 2 more because they had a buy one, get one free deal for a little while. And I sold the one, made the money back, and then I have, a kayak for my wife now, too.
That's not
So,
bad.
yeah. So she enjoys going out and paddling around. Not so much the fishing part. She'll fish with me, but she's more about enjoying the day and being outside.
I have a lightning strike. I got it during the pandemic because I've never got good timing on anything. But that's pushing the weight of a Hobie, and I do car top it. I just do it one end at a time.
Yeah, lifting something like that is tough. I've
Yeah,
seen guys with Hobies that have like a full-on boat trailer, and that's how they get it around. Um,
I'm. I get it if I was like on the series or the tour, and that's all I did, and I just rolled it around in a boat trailer. But 'cause I guess if that's what you did for a living, you want something stable where you can stand up on.
yeah, I definitely can't stand up in mine. How about yours?
Yeah, I can stand up in.
You can stand up?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
mine weighs 92 pounds with the drive in.
Yeah, that's a heavy kayak. I mean, it's helpful if you have
Yeah,
a buddy. Hey,
it
help
is.
carry this for me.
That's why I had kids. We got him one too, so I had somebody to help me unload it. So
Pick up that end, right?
yeah, he's got a lifetime Tamarack that's a lot lighter. But he's lighter than me too. So,
Yeah.
but we can throw the lifetime on top of the lightning and strap them both to the roof. Go down the road.
Have you ever done a float trip with them?
Not yet.
Yeah.
The star schedules don't really align, and it's like my youngest son will go with me when I can get him to, but he's got a girlfriend, so he'll pick her first. But how about you? The rest of my family, we're not into the same thing, so it's hard to the rivers. Well, you're from here. The rivers here can get pretty rapid, and there's flash floods all the time. So
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
very true. You got to watch out for the dam releases from New York too. If they
Yeah,
decide to release a whole bunch of water for whatever reason, it rises quick.
I don't know.
Um,
It's just doing a float trip by myself. It's not. I know that reaches levels I'm uncomfortable with on the danger scale.
It's just so hard to do it on your own too, because if you float from one place to another, how do you get it out?
Right. You're not
Um,
paddling up the river.
yeah, I rarely get to do a float trip, although I love doing them. I think they're so much fun. One of my YouTube videos, one of the earlier ones, is actually from a float trip I did with my buddy Colin. And what we did was he had a Volkswagen Golf at the time, and we stuffed two kayaks in the back of his Golf with the tailgate open and just hung on to them so that way we could float down to my truck at the end. Uh, but that was a great trip. We caught a ton of smallmouth on that float trip. And down here in South Jersey, we don't have a lot of smallmouth. So we drove about like an hour and a half north, and his car broke down like twice on the way there. It was just spewing antifreeze all over the highway. But we had a good day. It was a great trip.
Yeah. What rivers have you done a float trip on?
I've done the Delaware. I've done the New River,
Delaware.
which is
Nice.
in Virginia.
I actually used to live on the New River.
Okay, so you know it. Good
Yep.
smallmouth fish in there. You got muskie in there too.
Yep.
And also the Raritan here in Jersey. That's kind of up your way a little bit. It's more toward like Flemington area.
Okay.
It's north of Trenton. So that river is a way calmer than the Delaware or the New, but it has smallmouth in it. They're not giants, but if you know smallmouth fishing and you know river smallmouth fishing, you can find them and you can get on them pretty good.
Yeah, I actually just did the Delaware in Jersey Sunday and the canal.
Did you do the canal up by Lambertville?
I think so. Yeah, the DN
The DNR canal, yeah.
DNR. Y'all call it the DNR, and we call it the DNC.
Yeah, because the DNR, the R stands for the Raritan, which is that river I'm talking about. So it flows from like northwest Jersey out to the ocean by Sandy Hook, where a lot of people do saltwater fishing.
Uh huh.
So there are stripers in there, walleye, smallmouth. Supposedly there are muskie in it too. I've never seen any, but
I've been to Sandy Hook, and where do we surface? Long Island Beach State Park. We did some
okay,
surfing.
yeah, LBI.
Yep.
Yeah, I've caught a couple of fish off of LBI, but saltwater really isn't my thing. You know, I go out to the ocean, I look out there, and I'm like, where the hell are all the fish? I could go to a pond and I could walk across all the bluegill and, you know, perch that are in a pond. But you go to the ocean, it's like a big expanse of water and nothing.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
You know what? Well, actually, I've got a buddy who's got a buddy. I know the guy too, but not as well, obviously, is. But guy I went fishing with Sunday over in New Jersey. Another guy he goes fishing with, he's the type of guy like he'll go freshwater fishing on a boat or something like that, and if he don't catch something in 10 minutes, bored, wants to go home.
10 minutes?
Yeah,
I don't
no
know about
patience.
10 minutes, but that.
No patience at all for freshwater fish, which I'm like, because especially on a boat, like you can go over here, you can go upriver, you can fish the lay downs. So to me, there's more involved or more to keep your time occupied, like you with freshwater fishing. All the ocean looks the same from the beach.
Yeah,
all the ocean looks the same from the beach.
That's what drives me crazy about it. There could be a jetty right underneath the waves, and I would never know until low tide.
Right, but he can sit on a bucket in the sand and watch the waves roll in 5-6 hours, happy as a clam.
Nope.
Me either.
My friends make fun of me. They're like, "Oh, what do you catch when you go saltwater fishing?" I tell them I like catching spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what spot are?
Mm-mm.
They're little tiny fish like this big. They're like the bluegill of the ocean. I use tiny
Okay.
little bluegill hooks for them, but I'm getting bit, and
Right.
they got like chunks of bunkerhead, and they're not catching anything.
You know what?
So
I never outgrew that in freshwater either. I
no,
like to catch. I when I go fishing, I want to catch fish. I'm not somebody who can
right.
just go fishing when the best time of the fish are. I go fishing when I can. So if I can't buy a bat or whatever I'm after, if I can't buy a bass bite that day or whatever, I go up in this to get my confidence back. I go up in the shallows and catch 20 bluegill off a tree.
Yeah, and
You
when you catch
know?
those bluegill, you actually learn more about the ecosystem that you're fishing. If you're catching bluegill under that tree, why are the bluegill there? And
Right.
what about the bass that are going to relate to the bluegill and eat the bluegill? So sometimes when you take your boat up or your kayak up to those shallows and just kind of observe, catch those little fish for a little bit, it gives you a better idea of what's happening during that day.
Right. And also, I grew up eating them. So,
A lot of
I'm,
people did.
I mean, fishing as a kid, we fished for supper.
In one of my videos I shot down in Delaware, it's called the Delaware Invasion. I decided to get myself a Delaware license and just go explore down there. And it was during the winter time. And if you drive down to like Dover, their weather is completely different than ours up here in PA and Jersey. They're further south. Not much further, but far enough that if I'm driving that latitude, their water might be soft and ours is frozen.
Right.
So I went down there in February and I caught, a good 2.5 pound bass out of one of the ponds there. And a guy comes up to me while I'm filming and he's like, "Hey, are you going to eat that?" I'm like, "No, no." He's like, "Well, I grew up eating fish and I sure would like to eat that." I'm like, "All right." So I bagged it up and I gave it to him. He was happy as a clam. He couldn't believe that he was going to have fish for dinner. You know,
Um,
it doesn't happen very often, but I thought, hey, it's the middle of a pandemic, and I just fed this guy who was hungry. That's
right.
how I looked at it. A lot of people gave me, flack for it on the video. They're like, "Don't bag that bass up." Everybody got their own thing.
Bass are legal. Matter of fact, and you can confirm this for me actually, because you actually have a degree in fishery sciences. Okay, so pond management, pond management, or it's a lot harder to do in public water due to limits or whatever. But
Oh, extremely so. Yes.
if you have a private pond, especially, the absolute best thing you can do for that private pond, if you're trying to grow big bass, is take the little ones out.
You have to manage it, not just the bass, but also what they're eating.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to grow big bass, bluegill are not the way. Bluegill are everywhere, and bass eat them. But
Right.
for a bass to grow bigger and get length to it and get, girth, they need to eat things that have protein in them. So things like crawdads are way higher in protein, but you're not necessarily going to get bigger bass on them because they have to eat a lot of them.
Right.
That's why you see these giant, giant fish in, let's say, Arkansas or California, because they're eating trout. And you put a trout next to a bluegill trout,
Right.
and you think about, like, okay, which one of these is going to give a fish more protein? This
Well,
one?
trout's also got a omega-3 fats in it.
Right. So you're giving them vitamin T basically by giving them a trout.
Right.
And that's how these these fish get so big in those areas. Now, Florida, they just have a longer growing season.
Mm-hmm.
So the bass can get bigger there anyway because they're feeding all year long.
It's also a different strain.
They've got better habitat, and they have shiners.
Right.
The golden shiners in Florida, they get 10, 11 inches like a trout, and they've got soft fins, and they get eaten.
Well, not only that, but especially in Florida now, there's a lot of different variety of diet down there now. You've got snakehead
Yeah,
fry, you've got uh, ichor fry, you've got
yeah,
every fish that spawns is going to have fry that other fish can eat,
yeah, and I'm
including
sure
bass.
that the snakehead fry are, protein filled. If you
Mhm.
ever catch a snakehead, you know that they're packed with meat.
I
So,
haven't yet, but supposedly we have them around here, right?
unfortunately, we have a ton of them in South Jersey. And I'm one of the few people who is hesitant to promote them as a sport fish.
Hmm.
And that's because of my biology background. There are so many things about the snakehead that we, the average fisherman, do not know. Here's what I do know: the animal came from Asia, and that's where it evolved. Its natural habitat is rice paddies, which are very shallow, pools of water, kind of similar to a cranberry bog around here. Their main diet is frogs. Their mouth and their eyes are positioned on top of their head because their main diet is frogs in these rice paddies. They're looking up constantly, looking for a frog to eat that is either on the edge of the rice paddy or sitting on top of the vegetation. That is their niche. Move them
Okay.
5,000 miles away to the east coast of the United States, and they are in a completely different habitat. And we don't know what they're capable of. We don't know what niche they sit in. And that's what frightens me. I see all these videos from different people who are very, uh, strong advocates for snakeheads as a game fish. And they say, oh, there's studies done on the Potomac River that say there's nothing that they're doing. They're not harmful to the bass population. Well, that's okay, but what about all the other fish or the other animals that are now being eaten that weren't being eaten before? Like, what is in the snakehead stomach? Are they eating all of a specific frog or a minnow? Are all the populations of bait fish in a certain area decimated because of these snakeheads now? And online, I see people repeating over and over, "Oh, but the Potomac River, the Potomac River." But that is such a dynamic fishery with so much habitat and expanse of water and
Right.
food that it's completely different than a pond in New Jersey.
Right.
You know, Guys say, "Oh, a snakehead fights harder than a bass, it grows bigger than a bass." Yes, that's all true, but at what cost? We don't know what the fish are capable of, and they've been here 20 years now.
Tastes
But
better than a
that's
bass. I haven't caught them, but I've ate one.
they are still not enough data about what they're doing to the ecosystems for me to say, yeah, they're fine, leave them as is. So everyone that I catch, I kill.
Well,
And
you have to here, but I don't necessarily like that law.
see, a lot of people will argue against that law, even though it's written as any snakehead that you catch should be destroyed. That's
Right.
what's written by the law. And as a person with a biology background, that is what I'm going to follow because the biologists who have studied their impact and have said, here's the best course of action for you guys to follow based upon our professional estimate, and nobody's following it. They're just like, oh, let me put it back. I want to catch more. It's a very
It's
greedy mentality when you think about it. It's kind of selfish because
I
we don't know what's going to happen another 20 years from now.
I I understand the biology and the law of it. I don't like it as a personal choice for me because I don't like maybe I take two of them home, right?
Mhm.
If I catch any more, I gotta just leave it laying on the bank. And I was
Well,
kind of,
you don't have
I,
to leave it on the bank.
I'm saying, but like if I only want two or whatever, or if I've only got enough room in the cooler for two or three or whatever, especially because it's a drive from Jersey to where they're at. So I go and I catch two or three and my cooler's full and I ain't got room for any more. Now either my day's over if I don't want to kill a fish I'm not going to eat, or I got to kill a fish I'm not going to eat.
Well, that's a very conservation-minded mentality, though,
Right.
because you're thinking, I'm not going to kill this fish because I don't want to take its life for no purpose. But you're actually taking its life for a purpose when you remove it from the waterway and you're creating more balance in the waterway that wasn't there before. Um, People say, "Oh, if you eliminate one snakehead, it does nothing. Five more will take its place." Well, that's not true. By removing that adult breeding snakehead out of the population, you've removed all of its future offspring. Cooler
Yeah.
size
Ain't
is
saying.
the issue, Stanley says.
Yeah. Ain't
Time to
saying it's
upgrade
good
that
seeing.
Yeti.
I ain't got no. Man, you saw my name was Blue Collar Fishing when you came in, right? I ain't got no $700 cooler. That
time, time to fill up the bed of the pickup.
igloo,
But
baby. That's where we're rolling. you know. Um. Not only that, but okay. Now there are other states that have had them a lot longer than us. Florida's had them for 35, 40 years now, right? Florida has actually changed their laws from what our laws are now about, bonk them on the head, throw them on the bank, to just put them back. The only thing you can't do in Florida is you cannot travel with a live fish and put that live fish from one waterway to another waterway. And I get that, but they've kind of already accepted the fact they're here to stay. Of course,
yeah, with
everything in
Florida,
Florida is invasive now.
it's a very wet place when you go to Florida. There are canals
Right.
that go everywhere. Eradicating them for Floridians is going to be nearly impossible because these fish, I don't know if you've ever watched a video on these fish from like Asia, but if there's a drought, these fish will burrow underground and live in a mud hole for months at a time. I've taken these things, I've thrown them in the battery compartment of my boat for 8 hours in 90-degree temperatures. And then 8 hours later, I go and it's still alive. These things are really, really hardy. They're living in a place that they don't belong, that they never evolved in. They're meant for a place like China where they live in these rice paddy fields. That's what they're adapted to. If they
Right.
get into the sewer system here on the East Coast, they could go anywhere. If you think about it, the sewer system is basically like their underground burrows over in East Asia.
Yeah.
And they can breathe air, kind of like a bowfin. So they don't need water. It's just a very highly adapted predator who has the ability to invasively spread. And that's what a lot of people aren't understanding about this fish. They just see the sport fish and the excitement of catching something exotic and then feel like, oh, I don't want to kill it because I don't want to take its life. Me, as a scientist perspective, I say we need to remove this in order to maintain the balance. We at least need some type of regulation. Um, and that's what the biologists here in New Jersey have not done yet. They haven't put forth any regulation. So there's no limit on snakehead right now.
Oh no, there
There,
never will be.
there might be. Delaware has acknowledged it as a sport fish.
Oh, well, okay.
I
Now,
believe
let me ask you,
Maryland
because we don't
still
have the
has.
we have the snakehead here, but we don't have the other one here yet. Now, I'm not originally. That's why I talk funny. I'm not originally from here. So where I'm from, we have a problem with another invasive species, the Asian carp. What do
Hmm.
you think is a greater threat? The snakehead invasion or the Asian carp invasion and the Asian carp getting into like the Great Lakes?
Well, the Asian carp are a different type of problem. Asian carp are not a predator, but they are prolific at spawning and creating more Asian carp. So if you've ever seen those videos of the carp jumping into people's boats as they're driving down the waterway,
I
that's the
have not had to see it on video. I've had it happen personally.
that's the fear and the problem with the Asian carp. If they get into the Great Lakes and they proliferate throughout that entire system, they could go all the way from Minnesota to Quebec, Canada, because there's nothing stopping them between there. So that's the big push to stop them from getting into the Great Lakes. Um, Recently, I heard that they did get in there. Like they passed through some barriers and they've gotten into Lake Michigan somehow. I don't
Hmm.
know how true that is. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what I heard most recently.
I've heard those reports, but I haven't seen any actual physical evidence of it. So right now, I'm treating it as a rumor until
So
somebody shows me photographic evidence of these carp in the lake. I I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they have, because the things figure out how to get anywhere. Because I mean, it started out just a couple of the Asian carp were brought here for these water treatment systems to help uh, clean and aerate some of those outside tanks, and then the flood waters came, and then
they
got
got out.
into the local they got out into the local waterways, and uh, the issue with the Asian carp, besides like you said, is the they're activated by like the vibration of a boat motor,
Mhm.
and their fight or flight response is to go out of the water. But a
So
couple of
there's a
issues that
benefit to Asian carp that people don't see because of the name. They're actually pretty good to eat and
right, they're not
easily
actually a
caught.
carp.
Right, they're easily caught through a commercial method by netting. It's not like they are loners like snakeheads. Snakeheads, you can't go out and net a whole bunch of them. Go find a snakehead for me right now, I dare you.
Right.
They hide. They're ambush predators. They get into like the nastiest, shallowest, muddiest place they can, and they're hard to find. You actually have to go out to them wherever they are with a frog and catch them. Carp, these Asian carp, they suffer from that name. And Mark Menendez, one of the touring bass pros from
Mhm.
Kentucky, he is trying to get their name changed to something that's more uh, menu friendly.
Silverfin. There's a
Silverfin.
there's a chef out of Chicago who's trying to change the name to serve them as a dish.
Yep. So if we saw more silverfin on menus or on, supermarkets, people would gobble that up. When people eat tilapia, they don't realize that they're eating bait.
Right.
I think tilapia, I'm like, oh, that's bait.
I
Bass
think
eat them,
no,
you know?
not yet, but I can't buy it anymore. I saw like you ever seen like some of the conditions these tilapia farms, these tilapia are raised in that they sell in the store. Mm.
Yeah. What's the other fish that, people are, oh, Chilean sea bass. That's not a sea bass. They changed the name of that thing so people thought it was, oh, fancy. I think it's a monkfish, actually. I might be wrong about that. I'm not big on saltwater. But
I know the
yeah,
Asian carp or silverfin, whatever you want to call them, they're plankton strainers. So the issue or the difference between the snakehead and the Asian carp is they're never going to be classified as a sports fish because you can't go out and catch them on a rod and reel.
Right. The Asian carp are never
And
going to be a sport fish.
right, and the commercial issue is commercial fishermen aren't going to fill their nets with anything they can't sell. There has to be a market for it, and there's no market here for them right now. And I think a lot of that is they weren't named right.
I mean, you think about all of the jobs that could be created from Asian carp. Fishermen, grocers, fish transport, and if we have this many of them, we could send them all over the world as a product.
The only market there is for them right now, ironically, is actually back to Asia because
because they know what it is.
Polluted. Yeah, their water systems are so polluted that they don't really their habitats are being destroyed over there, so they don't really populate that well over there anymore.
So, for me, I think that is one of the biggest differences between those two invasives. One is an opportunity. We're not really going to get rid of them, but we can manage them by scooping them up all at once and shipping them out. The snakeheads, right now, we need to, tread lightly on them and control their population and manage them. That's my fear, is that we're not acting enough, and the general public is not getting the right information about them either. I've had a lot of arguments online with guys who say, "Oh, largemouth bass are invasive. They're not from around here." Well, that's not true. Largemouth bass were introduced. And the difference between introduced and invasive is fisheries managers have placed that fish there for a purpose. Invasive, those fish came from somewhere else that they don't belong here and have made their way into other waterways on their own without any of our help.
I think on both accounts, I can't think we're just going to have to figure out a way around them. I think they're both here to stay. I mean, largemouth bass aren't invasive. Smallmouth bass were also introduced anywhere if you're not from the Great Lakes northern region. But the common carp, which are all, matter of fact, I saw some tanks in that canal Sunday.
The common carp are considered invasive because no fisheries manager brought them here.
Now they're no longer considered invasive. Common carp is considered naturalized, which means they were invasive, but they've been here so long, now they're just part of the ecosystem.
And that's maybe where we're going with snakeheads, but we might be dead and gone by that time that happens,
Right.
We got anybody in chat?
Hey, Chris, no, you didn't miss it. Come on in, hang around. Hey, Adam here's a local boy. We're about an hour apart. Maybe.
Yeah, we're pretty close to each other. We can talk about similar fisheries because
I'm in
the maps back here behind me. This is in Delaware.
The Delaware River runs by where I live too. So
that's the Chesapeake, which is south of both of us.
Mm-hmm.
I keep them on my wall so I can refer to them anytime I'm going down there and be like, oh, I remember this spot.
We were just talking about this, Chris.
No more kill orders in PA, huh?
So they relaxed on the kill on site because they passed it last year to kill them.
So I'd be interested to see what their regulation is. If it's not kill, what are your limits for the fish? What have they determined?
I don't think we have limits. I think what he's saying is you no longer have to kill. You can release them. And
what do they direct you to do instead? Put it back?
Probably they leave it up to you.
But that
So if
means I
there's
can
not,
still catch 30 of them in a day. Eat them all.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they are. I mean, I haven't caught one here yet, but I have ate them, and they are fantastic to eat. They are. They're fantastic to eat. White, flaky fish.
Down here in my area, we have a lot of tidal creeks that come in, into the Delaware. So when the tide comes in, the water comes in, the snakeheads come in, and they've made it into some of our lakes too, because they're fish ladders. So first fish up the ladder, it's snakehead. Chat is blowing up.
Eat them all. That needs to be a shirt. Yeah, I like. I might
Eat them
make
all.
that shirt. Might make that shirt. It's not a bad.
I
That's
actually
not
got
bad merch.
flagged on Facebook at one point. I got a temporary shadow ban because somebody was asking for my opinion on snakeheads, and I replied, "We need to kill them all." Well, apparently that's not the right terminology to use on Facebook. They don't like that. Because I wasn't referring to fish, I just replied, "We need to kill them all," and they don't realize I'm talking about fish.
Yeah, you got to clarify in this day and age.
That one on the Potomac will rip your arm off, huh?
I heard they fight like crazy.
They do.
Right.
They fight very similar to a bowfin. If you've ever caught a bowfin,
I have.
very
Now,
similar fight.
I will say there is a difference. I haven't caught the snakehead, so I can only make one comparison to a snakehead and a bowfin, and the snakehead definitely has this above a bowfin. Snakehead are delicious. Bowfin are disgusting.
That's why they call them mudfish.
Right.
Yeah. Bowfin, I feel like, are kind of like a scavenger. They're a predator, but they also eat like dead stuff that just happen by. So I think that might be why they don't taste as good. People say, "Oh, frog legs taste just like chicken." Well, what is the snakehead
Yeah.
eating? They're eating
I
frogs.
kind of right. Well, I kind of have a theory on that chicken debate where everything tastes like chicken. So because and my theory is the reason everything tastes like chicken is because chicken in and of itself tastes like nothing. Chicken tastes like whatever you make chicken taste like.
Yeah, you put some seasoning on it, and
Right.
Old Bay
So
chicken, garlic chicken,
if you
whatever
season
chicken.
something like you season chicken, it's going to taste like chicken to you.
But if you like snakehead, eat them all. Eat them all,
But
like Stanley says. Put it on the t-shirt.
frog legs do taste a lot like chicken. They have the same consistency too. I have no issue eating snakehead. None. I have no issue eating fish. I have no issue with anybody eating fish. And there's no limit on it or whatever. So if somebody takes 30 home, I ain't saying crap. That's their prerogative. I just don't like anybody telling me I have to.
Well, it's not them telling you that you have to. It's the way to regulate the fishery.
Right. Well, up until I guess recently, it was actually a law. A law isn't telling me I have to. I don't. I'm going to obey the law. I don't want my fishing license revoked. I don't.
But again, you have to go back
No.
to why that law was created. And the reason being is we are acting as a tool for the fisheries scientists to help manage this population. That's why we have a 5-fish limit. If somebody told you you can't keep 6 fish, well, people are telling you what to do. But why are they telling you that you can't keep 6?
It's like you said. It's also because I've been fishing other fish for so long. I've got a conservation mindset. I've got
Right.
okay. I understand 5-fish limit. I understand why that exists. I understand why it's there to make sure that this resource is here tomorrow.
Exactly. But with the snakehead, we're actually trying to eliminate it because it is
You
not a
don't want it to be
resource.
here tomorrow.
Right.
Right.
It's an invader that you're trying to contain. At this point right now, New Jersey's mentality is containment. Don't move it to another body of water that it doesn't
Right.
belong in.
But we're both with the snakehead and I guess the Asian carp, but they're just so prolific. But we're both guessing right now. Whatever side of the debate you land on with the snakehead, we're both guessing
Right.
whether or
Everybody is
not whether or
giving
not
their
they're a
best
resource.
guess.
Right.
And that's why I'm not on either side of the fence. When people ask me what should I do, I tell them I follow the rule of the law that says remove the fish from the body of water and don't release it. That's what I do because that's my background, that I my understanding of what we're attempting to do with that regulation. If you feel like you're not in any type of, capacity to dispatch the fish for whatever reason, whether you don't want to kill anything, whether you think that it does belong here, that's not up to me. That's up to you. You caught it. So it's up to you to make your decision on what to do. But if you
Right.
ask me what to do, I say follow the regulation, remove it, because that's what our best guess to do is right now. Remove that adult breeder from the population, contain the amount of, future generations that will come of it. And maybe we'll have more studies down the line that say, okay, well, maybe we didn't need to remove that fish. But we just don't know now. It's
Right.
it's too early to say, even 20 years after they've been introduced.
Chris brought something up that I brought up on another point too. Is like back when the law was here, I had a hard time understanding why you wanted me to kill this particular fish, or a law saying to kill this particular fish. When rainbow ain't from here, brown ain't from here, and you put millions of those in every waterway system here in April.
It's because they've determined that that many fish can be in that waterway at that time for people to remove. They don't put stocked fish in waterways to live. They know that the trout are not going to survive the summer in New Jersey. It's just the way that trout are. They can't survive higher temperatures. So after the water temperature gets to a certain level, low oxygen content, all those trout are going to be eliminated naturally. Snakehead, they can live in anything from, below freezing to 105. So that's the difference between putting all those thousands of trout in. They've done hundreds of years of studies on trout, where we only have 20 on snakehead.
Okay.
And then the point about gobies, don't belong here either. They're from Asia, actually Eurasia. They came here on a boat in the ballast and got dumped into the Great Lakes. Yes, smallmouth love to eat them. Yes, they've gotten to be balloon sizes, but even with them at like giant sizes, there are still so many gobies out there that if you turn over a rock, you don't know how many gobies are going to fly out of it in the Great Lakes right now. The whole bottom of the lake is littered with them.
Yeah.
And
Well, another thing about the gobies is even like you're saying at a giant size goby or whatever, a goby does not get big enough where it does not have any natural predators in that waterway. There's something bigger that can eat it,
right,
even
but
at record size.
there are so many of them that they litter the floor of the lake. And at what point does it become too many?
I don't know.
That's what the biologists don't know either. All they know is that smallmouth eat them. They eat smallmouth eggs, but every time they attempt, the smallmouth gobbles them up, and that's why they get so big. You know,
I
people.
never thought, well, especially in my lifetime, I actually never thought it would ever be broken. Um, for a couple of reasons, but like I said, I'm not from here. I originally grew up on or near the lake that the smallmouth record is. I grew up on the Tennessee side of Del Hollow Lake.
Feel hollow.
Right. The smallmouth world record was supposedly caught on the Kentucky side by a Kentucky angler. Now, there's debate for eons that, oh, no, he was actually in Tennessee. He just doesn't have a Tennessee license, so he went back to Kentucky and said he caught it there. Because most of the lake is in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
More of the lake is in Tennessee than Kentucky. But either way, and like back then there wasn't like a verified scale or anything. He put it on a grocery store scale or something like that, and said it was 12 pounds and something, almost 13 pounds, whatever it is. I forget exactly now. And I never thought that would ever be beat. The smallmouth just don't get to be 12 pounds.
Right.
But with the introduction of all these nutrient rich diets that they have now, snakehead fry, for all we know, that has more fat content, or the gobies that are like power bars for smallmouth. Do you think that smallmouth will grow into these bigger sizes and that world record will be beat one day now?
I think it'll be difficult. Not impossible, but I think it's difficult because all of the Great Lakes are so far north. You just don't have the same growing season that you do in Tennessee. You don't really think about Tennessee being that much further south than the Great Lakes, but the Great Lakes freeze over. Going back to your days in Tennessee, how many years do you remember Dale Hollow freezing over completely?
Never.
So you have that much more time for warm water in those southern states. And Tennessee being not totally mountainous, but it's pretty rocky, right? So
Yeah.
the water is cool enough and oxygenated enough for smallmouth to live and, uh, thrive. And I think
And
that's why a
northern
lot of
Georgia is
big
about as
fish
far
came out of
south as
Dale
you go.
Hollow.
Yeah, a lot of Del Hollow, like numbers wise, if you just want to catch a lot of them, then up near us here, the Susquehanna is
Oh yeah,
probably the best smallmouth fishery in the world.
but
If you want to catch average 2.5 on average, everyone you catch, Del Hollow is the best smallmouth bass fishery in the world.
if you want to catch 6 pounders on every cast, you go to the Great Lakes. You go to Erie
Right.
because they're packed full of gobies. But how come we don't see more smallmouth over 6 pounds out of the Great Lakes? You'll see an occasional 7 or 8, maybe even a 9 now and then, but you don't see a lot of them. If you hear about
Well,
one per year, that's
and you know
average.
what? It's been Well, as the temperature's warming up too, we have to take that in consideration on the Great Lakes. Will those fish get even bigger as they have longer feeding seasons? I mean, Erie hasn't froze over in 4 or 5 years, or this year is the first time parts of Erie froze over in 4 or 5 years. The
It's possible, and
This
that's
part
why
of
I
Erie,
say that it's not impossible for that 12-pound record to fall.
right?
If you look at the state record for largemouth in Massachusetts, it's 15 pounds. How is that possible? Every other state around it is not even close to that number. So how
Yeah.
do you get a 15-pound mutant out of Massachusetts? and it's just genes and luck, and maybe that fish ate more trout than the next one.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, yes. Digital grocery scales now are certified, especially if like you have a grocery store near a lake or whatever. But I think it was like a spring-loaded produce scale. In 1955, grocery store scales weren't certified for the state records. That
That
record was caught in 1955.
I mean, there's a lot of questionable records out there. The New Jersey largemouth record, I've heard 5 or 6 different stories about how that fish was caught. And our record is 10 pounds, 14. And I don't want to say it's ounces because I don't know. Don't know off the top of my head. It might be 0.14, which is actually just barely over 10. But the pictures seem to show a guy that has maybe like a 6 or 7 pound largemouth in his hands. It doesn't look 10, but it's hard to tell from a picture. Who knows what it ate last?
Right.
People question the lake that he caught it in. He claims to have caught it in a sandwash pond in southern New Jersey, extreme southern New Jersey, and it's a series of tidal ponds. Back in the 80s, when he caught it, it was a very good fishery, but since then, nothing even close to 10 pounds has come out of it.
Right.
He also claimed to have caught it on a flounder jig, a bucktail,
Mm-hmm.
and other people say that no, he caught it on a live bluegill. Other people have said that he caught it on a lake that doesn't exist anymore, that's down the street, that had a similar name. And he just said that it was from the public body of water. So much about that fish is lost in history, and we don't know what's accurate or what's not. Like you said, was the scale that he used accurate back in 1980? Nowadays, you got everybody and their brother with a Guggen scale on fish brain, holding up a bloody bass, saying, "Oh, I caught a 5 pounder." I I don't know if hand scales are accurate either. I don't think that they're a good measurement tool. I don't like to weigh my fish, period, at all, unless I'm in a tournament.
I do to kind of see where I'm going, well, kayaks I measure them a lot, but I can say I own not a Guggen. Hey, I tell you what, I can't talk smack on Guggen this week at least because I've caught fish on a Slim Shake worm twice this week when I threw everything but the kitchen sink at them besides that and didn't get a bite. So the
I
Slim,
am not a Guggen fan at all. I have reasons behind that. Um, I don't even like to give them any attention because I don't like the way that their business practice operates. Their parent company, Catch Co., they've just had very questionable ethical choices over the course of
um,
their existence.
their hard baits, their parent company is Ketchco. Their hard baits, they have actually it's a licensing agreement. They have a license agreement with Ketchco. Ketchco also owns Mystery Tackle Box, but the what
And
they call
10,000 Fish and Biospawn
yep,
and Carl's Bait and Tackle.
yep,
Um,
and a lot of other crap. Yes,
yeah, so they just change the names and rebrand the product in order to make as much money from people as they can.
yeah,
Which
and a lot of other tackle companies do that too. Lucky Strike owns a lot of shit too. Berkeley owns a lot of shit too. It's just
they do. Pure Fishing owns a lot of stuff. So
right.
does Pradco, Strike King Lose.
But the goo, so you'll see the things that are made by Ketchco or other companies, the license agreement, you'll see a Guggen Squad bait. If you see Guggen baits, like the soft plastic, that's actually owned by the Guggens. They have those kids in that squad have the controlling share of Guggen baits, the soft plastics, and they have a partnership with the guy who owns Favorite Rods when they first came out with them.
Well, they kicked them out. They kicked Favorite Rods out. That's a whole other story.
Well, he still has a percentage of Goo Gun Base, but he does not have controlling share.
Favorite Rods were, a big player for the Guggen squad, and then all of a sudden they stopped using them. Each one of them kind of said, "Oh, I don't want to use Favorite anymore. The reason I left Favorite Rods." And then about a year later, Catchco puts out a video that says, "We've been working on the Guggen Squad rod lineup for about a year now," and they show all the Guggen Squad members in a conference room talking about rod specs and designs. Meanwhile, They were all with Favorite. So it just they do shady things, and I don't appreciate it. So I don't give them any time of day at all.
See, I know me and you disagree a lot on the business side of like fishing, and we definitely disagree on like we got to know each other from my biggest tweet of the year last year, which was Ike and Elliot did a podcast about when there's tournaments, maybe the public shouldn't be allowed on a lake they pay taxes on.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, that ain't happening. So we did. I know we disagree there. So I don't know if all these people came in tonight looking for us to argue back and forth, but
they might have. I don't know. We can argue about it if you want.
I think we settled that debate. Like I just and you okay. We will discuss it a little bit on this. The thing is, you mentioned, and you're right. When these tournaments come to town, they do bring a lot of local business with them, or a lot of support for local businesses. However, that support that's there all year round for them is the locals. The tournament's here one day.
But the locals don't have to fish that one day. Out of 365 days in a year, they have to fish that one day?
You know what? Let me get my fishing license. I'm going to see where it says 364 days a year I pay for it.
Well, if you pay for it on the 3rd of January, you don't get the first two.
I actually get mine December ahead, but you can buy in Pennsylvania. You can buy them 1, 3, 5.
Right, but it's only good until December 31st, correct?
Right.
So if you bought your license on February 2nd, Groundhog Day, you missed all of January. So your license is only good for 330 days of the year.
Oh, but the same, okay. And I know you both are tournament supporting guys, and I am too. And here's the deal: there are how many anglers are there in BASS right now?
I think there are 90 something right now because a couple dropped out. They couldn't afford to keep going.
We'll say 90.
Okay.
Because you figure a tournament, there's 90 something, 90 of them can make it to that tournament. So you got an average of 2% that have to drop out of one tournament for some reason or another conflict. Okay, so we'll say 90. 90 anglers. 90 anglers on a turn. Lake Hartwell is 50,000 acres.
Yeah.
I think we can share.
Well, I think we can share too. However, why can't there be an area where the tournament is held only? So out of those 50,000 acres, can you give the anglers 10 and say, okay, public, please don't go in and fish in this area of the lake, this creek arm or that creek arm?
Right. And Chris, I'm the same way. If somebody's already there before me, I don't roll up on them. I completely agree with that. But that's just fishing etiquette. That's fishing etiquette.
That's fishing etiquette. But I watched a video of Gerald Swindle down in Florida.
You were talking about the 10 acres. I mean, if you're just going to give a tournament 10 acres, then why not go to a private 10-acre lake and hold all these tournaments?
I'm saying 10,000. Out of 55,000, 10,000, that's a fifth, not even a fifth.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that either. Like, I get your concept, but I don't think I agree with it because 10,000 acres, that's a
You gonna
different
tell me
boat
that
ramp.
the other 40,000 isn't good enough for you to
No,
go fishing?
no, I'm saying if I live there, maybe that 10,000 acres is blocked off for that. That's my boat ramp. That's my access. That's what I pay taxes to. Now, I got to drive all the way to the other side of the lake, gas
For one
$5 a gallon.
weekend. Just one weekend, that's it.
Maybe that's the weekend I've got to go fishing. This weekend I took vacation to go to Lake Hartwell and fish with the Bassmasters.
So let's say that you're a golfer and you go to your
Uh,
local country club and they have a tournament happening. Are you allowed to go golf along with the tournament?
that's private property. Not the same.
Is it always private property? Because some golf courses are public.
Well, you have a municipal course, but they're not taxpayer supported. So fisheries are supported by the sale of fishing licenses, which is sold to the public.
All right. So what about, for example, trying to think of another public area that people would use, like a soccer field. That's supported by taxpayers. If there's a soccer tournament for kids happening that weekend, you're not going to go out there and just start kicking a ball around.
Mm, it's owned by the city. It's not public.
What do you mean
It's
it's not
open.
public?
It's open to the public, but it's not
Okay.
publicly supported property.
How do you
Like
think they
water.
pay for it?
And not only that, but like I get what you're saying. I understand that, but like there are different navigable laws than there are property laws. So like here, as long as you can enter on public access, all water's public. All water belongs to the state.
Okay,
It's
so
just like a
if
it's
they
just
shut
like a
down a boat
private
ramp,
homeowner. A private homeowner can own a dock, but he cannot own the water.
if they shut down a public boat ramp, which they technically do for these tournaments,
Absolutely, I get it.
because there are so many, there's 90 boats that have to launch, right?
Right.
How many other members of the public are going to be using that boat ramp that day?
Over that particular boat ramp, I get the boat ramp thing. I understand the boat ramp thing.
So if that boat ramp is already shut down and you're
Right.
saying that you're a private homeowner who lives on that, creek arm and you want to go fishing, what's stopping you from getting in your boat, leaving that creek arm, and going somewhere else in your 55,000 acres?
Well, what? Let's say you're a private homeowner on that lake, and you have a dock in that 10,000 acres.
Well, that's different. If you're on the dock and you're casting in the lake, that's no problem. But once you get into a boat and you start casting next to the guy who's fishing for a living in a tournament that has brought revenue to your area, you're kind of, you know, cutting your own Achilles by doing so. It doesn't make a lick of sense to me that somebody would do that.
And neither have I, Chris. But I don't. I guess this whole conversation came on because of the flotilla. If you ever been to some of these big ones that allow public access or whatever, or public, well, they're all public access. So, but they have this flotilla where people move around and watch the anglers fish, and I think that can be dangerous to some extent. So I get some of the safety concerns on that, but I can't go to okay, this public water that you've brought revenue to all year long. See, the public brings revenue to this place too. Matter of fact, the
But not
public
for that
that's there,
weekend.
yeah, but the public that's there is where the revenue's coming from. Those
But
90 anglers,
for that one
the,
day,
but yeah, right. Most spectators go in the room. You're absolutely correct. I guess I had a issue with a couple of occasions on Hartwell last year.
So this
I
year
know
there
I
was a
can't go for
video.
that one day. I can't go for that one day. So say they shut it down to the public, right? How much is that going to hurt the local businesses?
Not at
Local
all,
bait
because the
shops.
public is out in the businesses spending
Oh,
money instead
if
of
the
on the
public
lake.
is told
You can't
no,
spend money if you're in your
if
boat.
the public, if the people who go there to watch the Bassmasters angle or whatever, right? If they are told they can't go, they're not going to go.
They're going to go to the diner instead and spend money there so they can watch it on
But
TV.
they are. Well, excuse me.
What do
No,
you
they
mean
are
they won't?
not.
Of course they will.
You're going to
If
make
they
a
can't go to
five.
the lake, they got to do something with themselves. You think they're going to sit at home and
Okay,
cry?
no, I'm talking about the ones that travel for it.
That they traveled, so they're not from the area, so they didn't actually spend money in the town 365 days a year. They're from somewhere else?
Well, that's what brings in the attraction. That's the reason there's so many more people on Lake Hart. Like, as last year for Hartwell. But that's the reason there's so many more people on Hartwell during that time frame. Is because I've been to a Bassmaster Classic. I went to the one in Knoxville. I don't live in Knoxville.
So what did you do while they were fishing?
I watched them fish. I went to the expo. I went to the weigh-ins.
Did you buy dinner?
I went. Yes, I did. I did go to dinner.
So you spent money in Knoxville. You brought money to their city.
Right,
And
but
spent money at their business.
when I went to dinner? Guess when I went
After
to dinner?
weigh-in?
No, when I got done fishing with Billy Claybo on Fort Loudon.
So you weren't on the lake that they were fishing for the classic.
Fort Loudon was the lake they were fishing.
That was the lake?
Yeah.
Did you see any other anglers that day?
Yes.
Elite Series anglers.
Yes.
And you were fishing in the same holes as them?
No, not in the same holes. I was fishing in the same lake. Fort Loudon's huge. It's the Tennessee River.
So how far away were you from another elite angler fishing?
At one point during the day, I'd say the closest I got was about 30 yards as Ike and Ellie went zooming by for weigh-in.
But he wasn't fishing. He was just driving by.
Not at the time, no.
So what was the closest guy fishing to you?
Oh, I have no idea because I'm not that guy.
You never saw one?
No. If I'd have been that guy, if there'd been even a tournament angler, this is just me personally. If there'd been even a tournament angler around anywhere, I wouldn't fish on top of them.
So you would have left. You would have given way to him if he said, "Hey, I want to fish in that creek. Do you mind?"
No. If he was there first.
Well, what if he was there the day before?
I would have fished on top of him.
What if you got there in the morning? He fished there all day yesterday. He rolls up on you in the morning, and you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Hey, I was here all day. I'm leading the tournament. Like, this is a great spot. I really like to be here." Would you be like, "That's tough. Too bad. Sorry"?
No. I'd be like, "Yeah, go ahead." Now, there's a caveat to this. If I'm there first and a tournament angler rolls up to me, "Hey, fishing tournament." "Oh, good for you. Good luck. Y'all care to leave?" Kick rocks, pound sand. You can fish here with me.
See, that's why they don't want you on the lake with them. That's why Ike thinks that area should be off limits, because you're in a spot that he needs to be in order to compete in the tournament.
Well,
or at least he thinks that he needs to be in.
Well, they can want in one hand, they can crap in the other. You tell me which one they fill up first.
But you're fishing for fun, right?
Yeah.
He's fishing for a potential payday. So
good for him.
You're hurting him at work.
No. He gets to fish for a living.
It's kind of like somebody coming to your job site and being like, "Oh, I'm in your way. Too bad."
Now, if I was there first on public water, we're missing the whole public aspect of this. Also, I bought a license to fish there that weekend too. So if I was there first on public water, actually he is the one getting in my way.
He's in your way during an Elite Series tournament, which is that to me that's crazy because you're there for him. You said so yourself. I went down there to see the Bassmaster Classic, and then fishing was just happened to be, something that you did while you were there.
Exactly, Chris. I have no issue at all if an angler comes to me, hey, you mind if I fish this? Nah, man, go ahead. Doesn't bother me. What I would take issue with is if an angler, elite angler, or any angler for that matter, comes up and says, hey, I was fishing this yesterday. Okay, that was yesterday.
See,
I was fishing this.
I think
Y-
that's
y'all,
totally wrong.
y'all want to take off and let me fish that by myself? The area I was in, like you weren't nowhere near here when I started fishing.
If he was there the day before, I would give way to him if he asked me to. I'd be like, yep, have at it, because I'm not fishing there for any amount of money. I'm just fishing there for fun. And I could go have fun somewhere else on the lake, especially if
You know
there's
what? I would
55,000
say
acres of it.
it is possible I would give way if they asked, depending on how they asked.
Okay, I can see it. Okay, that's fair.
If they start
That's fair.
demanding, I'm going to tell you to kick rocks.
If they have like a meltdown and like a hissy fit over it, no, no. Tell him turn his boat around, go somewhere else. But if
Right.
they're saying, "Hey, I really need this spot because I haven't caught fish anywhere else in the lake. I caught my kicker here yesterday."
And you know what
I,
else I might do? I might stay there, but I'll reel up and like, yeah, man, go ahead and fish. Maybe I'll learn something.
that's fair.
Me personally. Me
That's
personally.
fair too. But what these guys are dealing with is not that. It's not your mentality. What they're
Right.
dealing with is what I saw Gerald Swindle have to go through on Santee Cooper. As you know, Santee Cooper is pretty shallow, really stumpy. Gerald was in a spawning cove, and it might have been like 2 feet max depth in this area with stumps. And he's fishing along. Some local in a green boat comes by, puts his trim up all the way that he possibly can, and throws a rooster tail all throughout the area that he's fishing in. Muddies up the entire spawning cove, and then hits about 5 or 6 stumps in the process. And Gerald just shrugs to the camera and says, "What am I going to do about that?" He looks a little mad. I don't know why, but that's the type of thing that these guys are dealing with. And when that happens to them, and I'm sure it's happened to all 90 of them at some point in time, because there's some bad egg out there that's willing to do that. Back in the 90s, people were shooting at Woo Daves in his boat. Actual rifle bullet holes in his boat from people who didn't want him fishing near their dock.
We go on a completely different tangent with dock owners. I've been through that one 100 times too. That you don't own the water, you know.
But they seem to think that they do because their
I
dock points toward it.
completely. That's even worse than the, and I hate that word elite, but that's what they call themselves, the elite anglers. They're the private property owners are 100-fold worse than the tournament anglers.
So I think that the elite anglers should get the pass. I really do. I think that for that one weekend, people can, suck it up, be courteous, let them show what that lake is capable of for one weekend.
I think, as Chris has been mentioning here, most people are. There are certain unwritten rules or etiquette of this sport or this recreation or pastime. I can't get to your side of, the general public not being allowed to that day. I can't get there. What happened? Where'd you go? Well,
Sorry, I dropped off there. I was trying to look at the chat there real quick, and it kicked me out.
press the wrong button.
Yeah.
We'll go about 10 more minutes. I was only going to go an hour tonight, but got pretty good in here tonight.
Oh, yeah, I got you fired up about topics you wanted to talk about.
Actually, I don't mind talking about it. I get this from you, Adam, on the conversations we've had on Twitter and here tonight. Me and you are probably prime examples of something that everybody else, especially right now in this country, should be. We used to be able to disagree about shit and still get along in the morning.
Right.
We used to be able to disagree.
And that doesn't happen anymore. And I think it's because of the internet. People
Absolutely.
have this wall up on the internet where they can just spout whatever they feel like and then close it. And they don't feel like they have the need to talk to anybody, see what their point of view is, see how they feel about things. And I understand your point of view about, this tournament angler topic. I totally get it. You want your right to fish that water, and you have every right to. But what benefit, what gain do you get from having that one day? Whereas these tournament anglers could have everything that they've ever dreamed of happen for them. I can't.
I get it. And also, actually, you know what? Another caveat on that, you mentioned getting in the way of his work or his job or his money. Okay, what if I plan to make a video there that day? That's my money too.
Can you make a video there? Sure, why not? Why do you have to make a fishing video?
Because I'm a fishing channel. I make fishing videos. That's what I do.
How many fishing videos have you ever watched where the guy gets skunked? Is he still doing a fishing video?
I've watched a few. How many times do you think I get skunked?
You can go watch me throw a swim bait.
I watched it in real time. I watched it in real time.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're filming, you're not necessarily filming a fishing video. You're filming a video about fishing. Right. But you don't necessarily have to film a fishing video. And that's one of the great things about YouTube that I've learned. You can be creative on here. Anything that you upload is whatever you feel like uploading. There's no schedule. There's no format that you have to follow. Whatever you feel like doing at that point in time. And you can see that on my channel. I have videos where I go fishing. I have videos where I carve lures. I have videos where I fly my drone around and then go kayaking for a little while. I have videos where I'm filming myself from far away, where I do a voiceover, where I show people how to tie a knot. Anything that you want to do and film about fishing, you can upload to YouTube, which I think that's one of the greatest things that you can do as a creator. You can be creative with it.
Yep.
I watched Stanley, one of his videos where he was fishing in a dust storm. And you would think, oh, that's going to be a horrible video with wind noise and everything like that.
And it was.
But he adapted. I thought it was a great one. Come on.
Appreciate you, Stan.
He adapted and he made that work. Yeah, and he made it work really well.
There were a couple of parts I had to mute through there, Stanley, with that whipping in my earbuds.
But
rather much, Chris. We moved on.
That's an example. Like, you can be given like a hard, knock in a video, like you didn't catch anything, but maybe there's a story to tell about what happened.
Hey, your audio's something's happened.
I'm getting a phone call actually.
All right. Chris, you didn't mention much of anything. We're gonna go about 5 more minutes, Adam. You good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Does anybody from the chat have a question for me? I know that I've been talking a lot about whatever we're talking about, but I don't know if anybody had a question.
I've seen a lot of comments. I haven't seen too many questions, actually. I guess everybody's just listening to us rant and rave.
I mean,
I have a question for you.
Okay.
When we collabing, since we're an hour apart?
Oh, soon, I hope.
Let me know.
Want to do some smallmouth, some trout?
Doesn't
Just
matter.
not in PA.
I'm a better bass angler than a lot of the other angling. Since I moved to PA, though, I've caught a lot of trout. But I'm guessing I have a New Jersey license, but you don't have a Pennsylvania license. So
I do not have a PA license. Do you know why?
I don't know. Is it not the opposite? New Jersey residents can't get a yearly PA license?
It is $52 a year for a PA license for a New Jersey resident.
It is $52 a year for a New Jersey license for a PA resident.
Is it?
Yeah, but now there's a caveat to that. If you go with a buddy, you get the other one half price. So if you want to split the...
Oh, they have a buddy rule, huh?
Yeah, they have a buddy rule.
I bought my PA license last year, and I used it as much as I could.
Actually, you're actually right, Chris. 56. Nakamixin is horrible.
Is amazing.
No.
Giant fish.
It is. I love Nakamixin. My local lake. Love it. I say horrible in pressure. You know how hard Nakamixin is fished?
You need these.
What are you
this
doing?
Is what they're.
You
This
catching
is
all
what
the
they're
muskie
eating.
you're putting there? You catching all the muskie you're putting in there?
I didn't catch a single muskie. I only caught bass.
Oh, speaking of, I saw the biggest muskie I ever seen in my life in that stupid canal on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah,
and
thing
on
had
the
to be
Jersey
52
side?
inches. Yeah, thing had to be 52 inches, just lazying up the shore. I couldn't get a bite on nothing, but I saw him.
Gotta go make a trip up there. I've never caught a muskie. People were asking me on my Instagram, have you ever caught one? And I said, no. I've had them on. I've hooked them, but I've never landed one.
I've caught some nice fish out of Nakamixin, but it's work. Nakamixin's work. You got to put the work in. The very pretty lake. Very pretty lake. I love it.
I like it too. I really like it. Merrill Creek, that's another one that I love.
Well, can you get a visitor's pass?
For PA? Yeah.
Yeah,
you can get a week-long license if you want to, I think. But
if you want to do Nakamixin.
I just got a 9 horsepower motor on my boat too.
Okay. Well, I only have a kayak, so if you want to do it on a boat, then I'll have to co-angle.
Yeah. Well, I can get us anywhere on the lake now.
All right. What kind of boat are you pulling?
I've got a 14-foot John.
Whatever gets you out there.
It takes me about like an hour, 15 minutes to get to Nakamixin from here.
Okay. Yeah, we are really close. It takes me about half an hour to get to Nakamixin from here.
Okay. Yeah. I actually bought call tags from a lady over in Willow Grove when I went up there last.
So actually, you would get to Nakamixin before you got here.
Okay, so you're further up north than Nakamixin. You're like
Lehigh Valley.
Okay, like Jim Thorpe and all.
Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton.
Okay. Yeah, I have a friend who lives in Doylestown.
Yeah, Doylestown's about 45 minutes from here.
But yeah, I'll do Nakamixon. I'll bring all my big baits and I'll show you what actually lives there.
Right. I mean, I can do Jersey too. I got a Jersey license.
If you want to hit that canal or if you want to hit the river, if we hit the river, it's halfway for both of us.
All right, sounds good. Hey, I'll message you. We'll work it out.
We'll do some smallmouth fishing. I like it.
All right. Hey, Adam, thanks for coming on tonight. Really appreciate you being a guest.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I had fun.
All right. All right. We'll do that collab. We both video, right? You're cool with being on camera?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So we'll both be on camera, and we won't get out of the way for any tournament anglers.
No, we won't give away for anybody. It's our way or the highway.
All right. Hey, have a good night. Everybody,
All
thanks
right,
for coming. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, tune in next week. We'll have Alex Rudd Fishing is scheduled to be here. My buddy
Nice.
Alex Rudd. So tune in next week. We'll be talking to him. Good night, everybody.
Night.